here in the perimeter, there are no stars. Out here, we is stoned, immaculate.
Hello and welcome. This is the C86 show. I'm David Eastaugh. As you know, we love a special guest. This week it's going to be the turn of the musician and also writer Genny Schorr, who I spoke to very, very recently about life, love, poetry and all that other groovy stuff. Was the founding member of the LA all-female-led punk band BACKSTAGE PASS in the mid to early 70s and has just written a book that's coming out October 2025 titled All Roads Lead to Punk, which also comes with a 7-inch single. I will put a link to that in the notes below, but this is the interview, so after several minutes of interest and but casual chat, we get down to the exciting subject of the early formative years. Genny, it's over to you.
I loved Humble Pie. I loved early Rod Stewart, like the Faces. I love the Faces. But my cousin in 1973 took me to a Kinks concert, which was amazing at the Hollywood Palladium, where I met all these like incredible people that I'm still friends with. And I was, I guess, in high school. I was in high school, and I think I was like 15 and a half or 16, something like that.
Right, God, so that was 73.
So,
You hit 15. This is amazing.
yeah, but I started playing guitar when I was 8, and I was taught originally by my babysitter, who was named Cookie Morrison, and she taught me how to play guitar.
Blimey.
And she was a guitarist, and she hung out like on the Sunset Strip, like at Pandora's Box, and she dressed like super fab, like with like tight Wranglers and Fairchild boots, and she was, like a baby doll pajamas with no bra. She was like super cool. So she was an artist, which I loved also because I love drawing, and she played guitar with like a little folk duo.
Right, blimey. Were they? But
That was
so
that
was
was
she quite?
probably
But was she quite bohemian as well?
well, she was young, she was my babysitter. I mean, she was probably 18 or 19,
Right, she wasn't a
and I
baby.
was like 8, and I spoke to her I found her and spoke to her, which was incredible. And she sent me a picture, which I was able to include in the book. I also have a picture of her. She rode horses, picture of her and my sister actually on a horse. And then a picture of me and her grandma, like at one of the horse stables in Los Angeles.
Right, God, that's fantastic. And were your
Yeah.
parents, were they quite a progressive couple?
Yes, they were. They were very hip and cool and very political. And I sort of grew up in that anti-war movement of the Vietnam War, and they took us to like Lovin's and things. We went to a Lovin in San Francisco, and Martin Luther King spoke at the march, but we went to the Levin. I think my parents went to the march. We didn't get to go to the march, but because we were little. But yeah, they were really progressive. They were both from New York. My mother used to listen to jazz. Ella Fitzgerald. She went and saw. Well, I can't think. Lady Sings the Blues. What's her
Oh,
name? Uh,
yes.
what is her name?
I know we would be good
Okay,
on a.
I'll get there. I'll get there. My father used to go see Lenny Bruce perform, and they were pretty rad. And my mom, they were both in World War II. My mom was a whack.
Right. Were they stationed
Yeah.
in the UK at all? Did they?
No, my father was stationed in, I think, the South Pacific, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't know if my mom made it overseas. Um,
Right.
but and then they all came to Los Angeles for the weather, and yeah, they were pretty hip and cool.
It's just interesting
Unfortunately,
because,
they didn't live long.
oh, sorry
Now,
about that.
my mom died. She's been gone 50 years. She died, and that's what made me actually, well, I already started playing electric guitar, which wasn't cool in my high school. And I started running away to Hollywood a lot. And that's when eventually I found punk, or we helped to, my band, Backstage Pass,
Yes.
we helped to, solidify sort of the LA punk scene.
Blimey. Yes, that's quite.
One of
So,
the architects of it. Yeah.
yes, well, absolutely. That's always quite a big thing, losing one's parents at such a young age, isn't it? It kind of discombobulates one quite a lot. And also,
Yeah. It was very discombobulating. And I was sort of my mom's, I don't know, kind of golden child. I used to sing to her. I used to dance. I used to sew with her. I mean, I used to draw pictures for her. I mean, and then my life just changed. And then all of a sudden I was like the black sheep of the family. So at least I had this incredible playground to rebel in. I would, if I had to trade it all, I would take my mother over all that. But
yes, well, actually, yes, because you write about this in the book, don't you? Quite a lot.
yeah, so since I didn't have a choice in the matter, I found a home like within all the other like misfits on the scene. So it was comforting in a way and, you know, uh, helped me.
Yes. Did you manage to finish school at this stage, or had you sort of lost
I
interest in?
did finish school. I didn't get my diploma because I had too many like absences or tardies or something. And my father was furious. And that was awful. And he didn't handle that well. Um, and I tried to go to college, but I could not concentrate. So that really didn't happen till years like when I was in my 30s. I want to say I looked like I was 18 in my 30s. And one time I think a boy asked me how old I was in one of my junior college classes, and when I told him my age, he fell off his chair.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
that's a good thing. So then, sort of, you mentioned Humble Pie, one of the great that was Steve Marriott. Did Pete Frampton, was he in Humble Pie as well? He
I
says
think it
trying.
was,
I think he
but
was for a
I don't
while,
know
wasn't
how aware I was. I did have, oddly, my spouse, Kosh, he designed Smoke It, and I had that poster in my bedroom, my teenage bedroom. He designed that album cover, and I had that poster in my bedroom.
he? Wow, what a holistic circle we sort of got there. But then, so were you into the sort of at that point with the early to mid 70s? Were you into sort of kind of heavy rock at this stage, or such like?
Um, when I was younger, like around,
Yeah, well, when you were getting up from 15 to 17, was
I
kind
was
of
into like I said, I was into Humble Pie, The Faces. I think I like some of like I don't know. I Yeah. When I was still in high school, I started listening to like The Sweet and Iggy Pop and stuff like that. That was yeah, when that stuff came out. And a friend of mine who I mentioned in the book in the chapter called A Trench Coat Trick. She was briefly dating Iggy. A lot of people were in LA. So yeah, I was into when I went to the Kinks concert and met all these people that lived sort of in the Hollywood area because I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, which was a little bit more square. Um, I uh, They were really more open-minded and they turned me on to all this kind of music like the Sweet and things like that. And they were, and I listened to Bowie and T-Rex also. I was
Yes,
I was into glam rock.
that's absolutely. But you mentioned Richie Blackmore in the book, don't you?
Yes. Well, I was just looking for ways to escape my sadness about my mother. So I did at one point, especially in that year, when my mother was sick and when my mother died, I was very much indulging in my groupie wild era. So, if something was available, it wasn't like I was a big Richie Blackmore fan, but I did go off with him one night. Why not? Why not? He was kind of an interesting character.
Yes, I
Not
mean,
that we talked much,
no,
but
I couldn't imagine. And now he's got his little kind of he duet, doesn't he, with his partner? And they wear little pixie hats and make
do
videos.
they?
Yes, it's very strange. It's all very acoustic and quite English in a weird way. So was 70 sort of 4 to 76, was this kind of your wild period where you were sort of on the LA sort of scene quite a lot?
Yeah, I was escaping with my friend Robin, and going to Hollywood a lot and going to places like the Rainbow and going to shows, at the Roxy and, the Whiskey. Yeah, I was going to places with my friend
And
Robin.
were you part of the Rodney disco scene as
Yes.
well?
I went
Rodney.
to that's sort of the tail end of Rodney's English Disco. We went to in the Valley, it was the Sugar Shack. I tried out for the Runaways when they were a three-piece, but Kim Fowley was hideous and I don't know.
What was he? Did you immediately think, God, this guy's dodgy?
Yeah, because he just like sort of like was there was a couple things that happened there. One was he when I auditioned, he like said that I needed to lose weight or something like that. It was ridiculous. And I didn't. But and then later I was at I think Rhino Records and um Robin, who I was hanging out with, was bisexual and I was and but I wasn't out about it, and I guess he must have heard and he was like lording over the crowd at Rhino Records and pointed at me and outed me for being bisexual, and it was just it was embarrassing and horrific.
My
I
God,
think I
yes.
was um I don't know, I was probably 17 or 18 or, this is awful.
Yes, it must have been. So then, were you just literally seeing bands every night and managing to sort of meet people? Did you get to meet David Bowie? Because I mean, you mentioned
Yes, I did meet him. Well, there was a couple things when Backstage Pass first got together and we were rehearsing at Cherokee Studios. He was there, and so we were like a curiosity, and people were like peering into like the glass window. I also later met him when I had a store later in like sort of 78 to 83. I was with well my co-owners were Jake Riviera from Stiff Records and his then wife Tony.
right.
They split up and she started going out with and married Hunt Sales, and so I then met Bowie through Tin Machine.
Oh my God, that's just
Yeah, yeah,
excellent. My God, because in the
yeah,
book, sort of following it is you're meeting so many people during this.
yeah,
I mean, it's like it's a lot of people. I mean, there's a lot,
yeah.
and it's great. It's great that you've got so many incredible photographs in the book of various kind of
I
nights out
really
and
love that part about the photographs. I really am happy with the way it looks and feels. It's like I really do love that. I think the photos really make it come alive.
Oh
But
my God, it so does come alive, actually. So it's sort of 76. This is your big year, isn't it? This is only 49 years ago. My God.
yeah, so I stumbled onto a show at the Starwood. The reason I went to it because I had a crush on this record company guy, and he said he was going there that night. So I thought, oh, okay, I'll go. And it was Dr. Feelgood, and that really sort of changed things for me. And I met the Feelgoods, and that's where I met Jake, who was then Andrew Jakeman. He wasn't Jake Riviera yet. He was their tour manager or road manager. And yeah, that was just meeting Dr. Feelgood just led me to, I call the chapter connections, because that's really what it was. Is
Well,
it really
yes, absolutely.
was, it really kind of informed a whole bunch of my life,
Well, and
from
it is
that
so
experience.
interesting because they're from Essex in England, aren't they, Britain? And they are so, they have that kind of quality. And
Canby
it's kind of
Island or something
Canby
like
Island,
that.
which is below sea level. And it's quite,
Right.
it's an amazing documentary Julian Temple did about Canby Island and
I saw it.
the
Yeah.
feel goods, which is just stunning. So did you love the music when you suddenly heard them?
Yes. Unbelievably so. I loved Wilco's guitar playing. I loved the music. I loved Lee Berlow. I was blown away by them. And that night, Pete Townsend was there, and he was dancing in the audience. And then you see the picture of me, Lee, and
Pete.
Pete. And I kind of hooked up with Wilco, but that was kind of a strange experience because he was a bit of a speed freak. And the rest of the band were like happy to get rid of him. And then I sort of traded up to Lee. Dodgy, but yeah, I did. And but they were amazing. And then I really never saw them again. I know the Feel Goods came back and played when they had Jippy in the band, and Milk and Alcohol, which I think was co-written with Nick Lowe. But I never went to that show. I never saw them again.
It's funny, I saw them in the mid 80s and they seemed like they were so passe then. It was just a bit like, oh
Oh,
God,
really?
but they had only been, I don't know, less than 10 years since that
Yeah.
period. But
But
it's funny, it's
rock
funny.
and roll, that's a long time.
It's a long time. It was like, God, these are old. It's like a novelty act, Now they're probably still going with, I don't know if they are, but
No,
most bands
well,
still are.
Lee has passed away. He passed away in I think, I want to say 1994, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Now Wilco's gone. I think Sparko plays with a feel good type band, and but yeah, they were amazing all together. But
Yes.
it was the two, Wilco and Lee. I think when Wilco left, they were never the same. But
No.
then Wilco briefly joined Ian Dury, and then I met Ian Dury and all of them, and Ian said to me, "You know what? You're sexy. You want to know why?" I was like, "Yeah, okay." He said, "Because you don't know that you are." And then I played with them at the Roxy. I did like a little cameo thing on Sex and Drugs and Rock and Roll
Classic.
live. Funny.
God,
Um,
yeah.
they were a great band. Uh,
Yes.
this wasn't with Wilco. This was with Johnny Turnbull was in the band, and I got to know him. And yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. And then when do you meet Star? I think she's the character that appears in an Iggy Pop
Star.
song at this stage, isn't she? Iggy Pop does a song years later, doesn't he? Which I think is
I
about.
didn't know that. I'm not aware of that. But Star Stowe, who was a playmate, um, my tongue's running around. Star Stowe lived in my building. My first roommate was my bandmate, Marina, and she was the one who came up with the idea for the band. And I have a great quote in the book that she did. I guess that's the punkness of being female. Don't ask permission. Just do it for yourself. I love that. That's something, if I'm not quoting it quite right. And uh, excuse my dog barking.
No, that's fine.
And so Star lived in our building, and that's how I met her. And when she was on the cover um, Playboy or in the centerfold, she had been dating Gene Simmons from Kiss, and they had it was a really sad breakup for her. And then she started dating Blackie, who was in a band Sister, and then he had his own band, and oddly, my the Kosh did some of his album covers, which is weird to discover. And we kind of all got together later, like maybe like a year ago. And he didn't remember me, but such a long time ago. It was such a brief little blip.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what was Star like as a person? Was she
It
quite a
was so
celebrity?
sweet. No, not really. She was very vulnerable, very sweet. And it was really so short-lived, but sadly, um, I remember seeing her with a black eye, and I was so young, I didn't know what to say, but I knew there was something not quite right. And I think she was starting to do some prostitution, which later led to her demise because she was killed. I want to say she was maybe 40. Uh,
Right.
Killed. It's an unsolved murder, but she was on the streets.
Yes,
Yeah.
blimey. How does that compare to someone like Pamela DeBar's? Because was Pamela a bit older and a little bit more
Yeah,
slightly?
Pamela DeBar was married to Michael DeBar, and there's a picture of her of them at the Feelgood party in
Yes,
the book, and she was in the golden age of the groupie era, like Zeppelin, that kind of thing. I came along a tiny bit after that fact. She's definitely older. She's probably 5 years older than me. But
yes,
she just turned 77, so she's like 10 years older than me.
yeah. Oh, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, she was definitely the Jim Morrison, Robert Plant, that Keith Moon, that kind of golden era, which our bass player Spock, who died a couple years ago, she was also in that golden groupie era as well.
Yes,
She was around for that.
the golden groupie period. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like
So
we didn't have that in Norwich, by the way. But
so Pamela, yeah, she wrote a book called I'm with the Band, I think.
yes,
Yeah, and yeah, so
but then 77, the Silver Jubilee, which I'm sure you were all excited about.
yeah,
Yeah. So is this when the band forms? Backstage Pass? Is
we
this when?
formed in 76.
Right. But things started getting serious in 77.
Yeah, yeah, that's when we started rehearsing first at Cherokee Studios, then Marina met Brendan Mullen from The Mask, and because she had a real job, she was a writer for Teen Magazine. She co-signed the lease, and so we helped to, that when she first met him, he wanted something kind of like an Andy Warhol kind of feel, but then punk happened, and so we built like our rehearsal space at the Mask along with two other bands, the Skulls and the Controllers.
Right.
Um,
And
yeah.
was there a good or exciting community at this stage in LA?
Yeah.
Did you feel like every day there was going to be some exciting action and some drama?
Well, we made it exciting and dramatic, but yeah, there was started to become a lot of punks on the scene. We were one of the first bands. People saw us. They thought, oh, they did it. Maybe I'll try it, even though I don't know how to play. And or maybe they had a couple lessons on things like I did when I was younger. And so, yeah, that was all happening. And then there was some punk houses, like my friend Pleasant Gaiman had Disgraceland, and Linda and Jane from the Go-Go's. I think pre-Go-Go's lived there. Jane was called Jane Traino. And I forgot what Belinda's name. She had a couple different nicknames. And we all took on punk names. I was Jenny Body. Rena, who was Joanne, became Marina Del Rey. Dave Vanian named our bass player Spock because she loves science fiction. Yeah, it started to like kind of come together. And then Jake Riviera, who we stayed in touch with, um, came to stay with us. He brought The Damned, was like the first British punk band to come to Los Angeles.
Yes.
And uh and so he came, and we had to answer our phone. Stiff Records. Who's calling, please?
Yes.
And so yeah, so when the Dam came to America, they were first on the television tour, the band Television, and they were upstaging them. And so the television kicked them off the tour. And so they had to like scramble and find places to stay. So they stayed with us. And then half of the band stayed with the band called the Screamers at this place called their punk flop house called Wilton Hilton. And yeah, so that's what happened.
God, there
And
you go. And was it because there's a beautiful picture that is you and Brian James,
yeah,
there's Spock
Rat.
with rats
So Rat stayed with Spock. Brian and Jake stayed with me and Marina. And I think Dave and Captain stayed with at Wilton Hilton, if I'm not wrong.
God, it's just like the Waltons, but with punk rock and drugs, isn't it really?
Yeah.
Probably more sex as well, but well, I don't know. They had 6 children or 7, didn't they? So I don't know, John Boy. So that was kind of yeah, and it is an amazing book because yours because some stories putter out, but yours is just every day is just filled with sort of more musicians and bands, and then you got Jerry Lee Pierce here from the Gun Club with
Jeffrey
Spock at
Leaper.
Bop. Yeah, I mean,
Jeffrey
and
Leaper, yeah.
yeah, this is, and then you were supporting quite quickly Elvis Costello on the '77 tour as well at this
That was
stage.
incredible. That was November of 77. Of course, Jake didn't want anyone to upstage Elvis, so he let us open, and it was 2 nights. Whiskey always had 2 shows a night. They would clear out the house in between. And yeah, so we did all these nights, and then immediately Elvis and I were drawn to one another, and he was, you know, said all kinds of crazy things to me. Yeah. And then Marina's parents were out of town, and so we all went and stayed at their house. Yeah.
Blimey! So that was, and at that stage, were you as a band rehearsing a lot and writing material?
Yes. Yeah, we were, and we did a demo, and but we were never signed. And I left the band in 78. And when I met Jake's soon to be wife, Tony, and she was the seamstress for the band, that really like struck a chord with me. And I was like, worship that. And that was like my next move.
Well,
Yeah.
that absolutely. And I remember,
She was making, I remember just like being right by her side, like I used to be with my mother, at the sewing machine, and she was making Nick Lowe's Riddler suit.
right,
Like the
that's
question marks. I'm watching her paint on the question marks and all the things.
God, that must have been amazing. But because I remember a few years ago talking to members of the Coquettes. Were they on your radar, that theatrical group, the Coquettes, at this stage? Because do some of
They're San
do
Francisco, weren't they? San Francisco.
yes, it's just that
Yeah,
I just wondered because you mentioned, is it Tomato?
tomato,
Was he?
tomato.
Because I from memory, he's not a Coquette, was he?
He might have been associated with that band. I think he might have been.
Yes. Well,
Yeah, so it wasn't quite on my radar. I mean, I heard the name, but yeah, Tomato de Plente. There was just a huge exhibit at Mark Mothersbaugh's gallery in Chinatown, and yeah, he was definitely gone too soon.
Well, yes, absolutely. God,
Yeah.
but then you also mentioned in the book Deaf School, who were one of those obscure Liverpool
Yes.
bands who were very art school based, and sort of talking to Clive Langer, who I interviewed only a couple of weeks or months ago. Actually, I think
I'm
members
still
of
friends
Deaf.
with Clive.
What is
So
what a producer! But yeah, so how did
I
you sort of?
introduced him to Jake Riviera, and he became his manager, and he produced Elvis and all those bands, and yeah, with Alan with Stanley, and yeah, Clive was. We were close to being a couple adjacent, but we were friends. But Deaf School was playing at the Whiskey, and I met him. I think I was across the street from the Starwood, and I yelled at him and said, "Oh, your band sucks," and then I said, "Do you want to be friends?" And then we were friends, and then I used to call him with everyone had Miles Copeland's credit card or phone card, and I used to call England all the time and talk to him and have him listen to us rehearse.
Right,
Yeah.
and Miles never sort of. I suppose he was. Did he manage Cherry Vanilla at one stage?
Miles managed the Police.
Yes, I know that was his big,
Um,
because
I
before the Police, he did a few things bizarrely with a prog
he
band.
managed Squeeze, which is
Yes,
a big, huge band for me,
but
and he managed. I think he managed the Bangles at some point briefly.
well, I suppose it would have been REM with IRS Records, where
Yeah, IRS
they
Records.
so that was that whole period. And he brought a book out a few years ago. I did the interview that was quite interesting. So then, sort of coming just, I suppose it's towards the end. You were sort of then at the Mu Bar. Oh God, I always cock up how you pronounce it. The garden place, isn't it? May
Mabuhay Gardens.
Mabuhay God, I should have rehearsed that.
Mabuhay
Yeah, so what
Gardens.
was that like? Because there's been a lot of live shows from that period that have been tapes have been found and then albums put out.
Oh,
Was that
wow.
quite a iconic venue?
It was because the Mabuhay and the Mask were sort of a bit on par. The Mabuhay had all these, all the San Francisco bands. It was, we really had like a sort of kindred spirit with them. And of course, we played there 3 times, I believe. And yeah, it was a great venue to play.
Yes. And what was it like? Because you were supporting the Mumps.
Small. It was small. It was a great little venue that
And
was.
were the Mumps an interesting or a good band
Yeah,
live?
I
Were
loved them.
they?
I loved them. Yeah, they
Well,
were
I
fun. They were ironic. They were funny. I loved Lance Loud, and first became aware of him from I think it was called An American Family, about his parents that they were lived in Santa Barbara, and it was about their divorce. And Lance living, I think, at the Chelsea Hotel in New York as a gay young man. It was very, the show was very different, and it was definitely like the first reality show.
Yes, I
There
can imagine.
was.
Because I know Hoffman's still about, isn't
Yeah.
he? So I've done a
Yes.
couple of interviews. He's so funny. He's
Yeah,
so
he's great.
sweet. He's so
Yeah.
lovely. And then you've got your next chapter in the book, which is my Blondie Valentine. I know, I can see what you've
Yeah.
done there. Yeah, so are you in the band at this stage? Have you left the band at this point?
No, not yet. I was still in the band during Blondie, I believe.
And then
Yeah.
you mentioned this kind of strange moment between Debbie and Pete, Tom Petty, which sounded rather
Yes.
odd. It was a very
Yes, that
peculiar.
was so when John, like when punk is going and it's like sort of mixing with like new wave and whatever they're trying to come up with, shows are put together that are like a little bit of an odd lineup. Like 10 years earlier there was Jimi Hendrix opening up for the Monkees, so you know what I'm saying. So people get it wrong, but so Tom Petty was on the bill with Blondie, and I don't know what his deal was about it, but maybe because Blondie was headlining, I don't know. And they were a new band. The Heartbreakers were a new band, and so it was very awkward and strange. But Debbie was wearing a wedding dress, like a vintage wedding dress with a veil, and everything was so angelic looking. And Tom Petty had a can of black spray paint from where I have no idea. And he marked Debbie's dress with TP on it.
Yes, he obviously had a few issues to still process, didn't he?
Yeah.
That was
And I think
bad.
that was just a little blip. And, I think people went on to really love Tom Petty and the
They
Heartbreakers.
did. That's a shame
Yeah.
they didn't. Obviously, when they were talking about how great he was, they sort of chose to ignore that little moment of
Yeah.
his.
I think that was just,
He
I
didn't
don't
take
know
it.
what.
I think a lot of musicians, especially when they were chugging along and they were doing quite well, and then punk came along, or any new moment in music, like there's another chat.
He was new as well, so I guess he was trying to mark his territory. I don't know. It was just some weird lineup
He
issue. I
he
don't
didn't
know.
take it. He didn't take it well, did he? But then you then leave the band, and then do you feel at that point then a relief? Is there a nice moment where you think, oh, my life is starting to sort of pick up in '78? Is this where you sort of, when you, especially writing the book, do you sort of feel sanity or a little bit more what you're
I
doing is?
did. A little bit more grounded, a little bit more grown up, a little bit, little by little, these changes occur. And but definitely I think I think being in the band and playing live and us, you know, not really fully developed as a band as much as um how things came together for let's say in comparison like the Go-Go's or something like that, where they started to be signed and have hits. And um I think there was maybe some anxiety attached you know to it. But I think when I went in the direction of wardrobe stylist, that I felt it felt a little bit more comforting or something.
Yes, I guess you
Felt
didn't.
I felt it more. I felt like I maybe had a little bit more control or something like that.
And also, I think I have never been on stage in that way, but I guess it's kind of an odd
It's a little
experience,
scary being on stage. It's a
and
little scary.
and the sort of thrill, and then the sort of bizarreness, and oh my God, this is
Yeah.
greatness is here. I can do it. But
Yeah.
then
When
it
you're on
must.
stage, anything could happen. The sound could be messed up. You don't, it's like a little bit unpredictable unless you're at a certain level, where you have the crew, the sound crew, you have all the mixing, when you're at a club level, it's a little unpredictable.
Yes, that's right. So Straitjacket is the establishment, and this is where, because there's a great picture of you with Del Shannon, sort of
Yes.
an outfitter, and you were living with is it Kathy Valentine from the Go-Go's at
I was
this?
living with Kathy during Straight Jacket, Kathy Valentine. First, Belinda asked me if I wanted to join the Go-Go's, but I had just started with Straight Jacket, so the timing, I don't think I would have been the right person. Kathy was much better musician, and also a guitar player, but played bass with them. And then she had songs like Vacation, and yeah, she was um, yeah. So I lived with Kathy at that time
That's quite
when I
nice.
was in Straight Jacket, and she was on tour a lot with them.
Well, that
With the
must have
Go.
been quite busy because her boyfriend was Danny Harvey,
Yes,
who was in Levi on the Rock Cats
yes,
with Smutty
correct.
Smith. God, Smutty.
Yeah,
Oh,
Lucky.
Did you get to
Yes,
meet Smutty Smith?
of course, of
Of course.
course. And my friend Pleasant Gaiman was married to Levi Dexter, and yeah, and then for a small period of time, I was in Pleasant's band, the Screaming Sirens, but very short lived, because when Straight Jacket closed, I went to work for and went to live with Linda Ronstadt,
Right.
and
Wow.
I had met her at a Tom Petty concert,
So,
oddly.
so at
Because
this
I
stage,
was we did some clothes for Tom as well and the band.
my God, and yeah, so you also were getting you had an autograph book, didn't you?
Yes, I
Getting
have an autograph book. I sure do.
which was quite, you had quite the portfolio of names on this, hadn't you?
Um,
Apart from Tom Waits, was he a bit of a pain?
he was. I know everyone loves Tom, but he would not sign my wall, and people spray. We had a can of pink spray paint, and yeah, even like Peter Noon, he wrote Peter No One, but Tom wouldn't. He wouldn't. He wouldn't. He wouldn't do the wall.
What a sulky, what a not at all kind of game. But then you come to, is your visit to England, is this your first time? Was this 78 with
Um,
Jake and Tony?
yeah, I did go to England. It was amazing. I went there a few times, and yeah, that was incredible. And they lived in, I want to say Shepherd's Bush, I believe. And yeah, that was insane. And I don't know if that was one of the visits that I went to. Um, there was Elvis Costello and Nick Lowe, uh,
Rockpile, yes.
Rockpile. Yeah, they were playing at, what was the show called? The
It's a,
Campuchia. The I might be pronouncing it wrong.
well, don't worry,
It was
I
the thing with Wings, and it was Pretenders. It was people, the people of Kampuchea, something like that.
yes,
The benefit. I
blimey,
don't. I'm trying to remember the year. It was the debut of the Pretenders.
yeah,
And
God,
Chris Kind, she came over because they had borrowed Jake's. He had an American Cadillac, like a vintage one, and it was, I think, in brass and pocket, if I'm not wrong.
right, the
And then
classic.
Nick produced Stop Your Sobbing, and I think another song. And I don't think he thought they would be anything. So he just produced a couple of songs
Wow.
for them. But they were
Never
great.
mind. But then in sort of 81, I'm sort of following this. You sort of meet Squeeze at this point.
Yeah.
They come onto your radar as well, don't you?
I
So
had seen them earlier at the Whiskey, I think the year before. Like cool cats there.
is Straight Jacket then the establishment? Is that a sort of fashion you're sort of doing, basically designing clothes for sort of bands and sort of
Yes, and then we also had vintage clothes, and we had some British things. We had brothel creepers and winkle pickers, and all kinds of some British stuff. And because Jake was British, and he was like silent partner, and Tony, and we did custom clothes.
right.
Uh-oh. Hold on just a second.
Oh yes, that's
Can we
fine.
can we
Oh
pause for
yes,
a
we
minute?
can.
Okay.
Is the dog coming in? Bye, doggy. Squeeze. Squeeze is your next kind of band, isn't it? Well, so is Elvis Costello and the Attractions, are they still one of your favourite bands at this stage?
Yes, very much so.
What
Very
was
much
Elvis
so.
like as did you interact with much of the band?
Oh yeah. They were like I was very good friends with them. Yeah,
Yes. God, that's fantastic. Steve
yeah.
Naive, Pete Thomas, another
All of
Thomas.
them. Yeah.
Stunning. Yes, one of my favourite gigs was seeing them at the UEA. And then I saw them again at Glastonbury, and they were just incredible. And then I saw him many decades later. He did an album with Burt Bacharach and went to
Yes.
London to see it. And it was just a
Yeah.
great album, actually.
Yeah.
So a golden period.
And
But
Clive Langer produced and I think co-wrote songs with him.
yes.
Shipbuilding and yeah.
Oh, yes, he co-wrote. Yeah, yes. Well, yes, Clive must have been pleased with that one. So,
Yeah,
yes, Squeeze
so
appears in your life.
yeah, Jake was managing Squeeze and at the time. And I think Elvis and Glenn did From a Whisper to a Scream. They did a song together, but they were playing with Elvis Costello. And so, of course, I went to the show and I met Glenn. And, you know,
Yes.
Bob. And yeah.
But you must have been quite serious because you went and visited your father at this stage and
Mm.
went and had a nice time with
I
each
thought it
other.
was very serious, but it wasn't in the end. Yeah, I mean, it was tough. I really liked him. And when I went to do a demo I was still playing music and still writing songs. And I went to do a demo at Nick's little studio called Ampro. And when I was recording it, I didn't call Glenn right away. And then I did. And he was like, "How long have you been here?" I was like, "I don't know, a week." He said, "What?" You know? And he, we met up and then I went to stay with him, I guess in Greenwich or whatever. And, but it didn't amount to anything. It never did, which I
Oh.
think in the long run was a good thing because he's a person that's constantly, I don't think I would have been happy. He was a constantly on tour. He's had I think he's been married 3 times. He has a lot of kids. He's a lovely guy though.
Yes.
I really like him a lot. He's a sweetheart, and so is Chris. And it was lovely to see them again later. I've seen them a couple of times. They met Eden, my kid, like in 2010, and then I saw them like in 2019, like right before the pandemic.
The pandemic.
And yeah, you know,
Yes.
he
Oh,
was
what?
a very hard person to you let go of. It was tough for me. I'm sure not for him, but for me it was. And then
Yes.
I saw him again, actually, in the late 80s. when he was married to his first wife, when I was touring with the Bangles, and they were on the same bill in Tijuana, Mexico.
Right.
Yeah, that was insane. And we were like chatting, and his wife, apparently, he told me later, his wife was taking pictures of us talking, something like
Oh,
wild
oh,
like that. Yeah, kind of
yes.
weird. But yeah, I've seen him like a few times
Yeah.
as friends, and yeah, I remember he's a huge like political junkie, and we, I remember, I think it was when Obama was running against, I think it was McCain and Sarah Palin, and we were both going crazy and talking to each other about that, about politics and things like that. So yeah, he's a good guy.
Yes, he would be. So 83 is a big year for you, isn't it? Because is this when Straight Jacket folds at this point?
Yeah,
It goes belly up, as you say, and you.
yeah, that was a
Um,
tough, tough time. But I met Linda and Ronstadt, and she was saved me. I didn't know what I was going to do. I had no job. I had no money. It was, but I met her because Nick Lowe was opening up for Tom Petty, and she was there to see them with her roommate Danny Farrington, who was a guitar luthier who did all that cool pearl inlay for like Johnny Cash, and he did it for Elvis Costello and Nick, and made guitars for Squeeze. And so he introduced us, and we were sitting next to each other because we all had our tickets from Jake Riviera from Nick
m-
Lowe.
right, there you go. So do you start working for Linda at this stage, or
Like immediately. Yeah.
is this as a personal assistant?
Wardrobe stylist.
Right. So that's quite something, isn't it? God, you must have been so relieved at this stage.
Oh my God. It was a miracle. It was a
Yes,
miracle.
it was
And
a
it was
miracle.
just seemed so meant to be. I mean, when I first met her, she was doing one last rock tour before they let her do her Nelson Riddle. But I didn't know about Nelson Riddle. And we wore a lot of vintage. So I had also brought her this like ball gown type torch singer dress. And she's like, "Oh, I wish I had this for my album cover, but we already shot it." And it was my spouse who did all her album covers. And so I met him on one of the shoots, which that was for her Lush Life album, which was the Half Box.
Right. God, there's a great picture there, isn't there, of Linda Boy George and Smokey Robinson.
Yeah, yeah,
That is
yeah.
such a
That was
great.
wacky, and yeah, we were doing all the television shows, and Smokey had a really short-lived show called the Smokey Robinson Review. And so Boy George or Culture Club was on it. And Linda really liked Boy George. And I said to Boy George, "Oh, Linda really likes you a lot." And he was like, "Could you be any more boring?" I think he was like really knee deep in his heroin addiction at that point.
Right. Yeah. Oh,
He was
yes.
a
Yes.
jerk
Things were
then.
getting a bit messy
Not
then,
now,
weren't they?
but then. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. He's got a great. His book came out, and I listened to the audio. He actually narrates the audio. If you get a chance, he's quite amusing actually. So then
Oh,
when
yeah.
Linda finishes, the Bangles come calling.
I had already been working with the Bangles since the Bangs era. So,
Right,
but when they had their album Different Light, they started making some really real money and were able to hire a wardrobe stylist to go on tour. I was already doing videos with them and whatnot. Yeah, I got to go on tour with them. We went to first to Europe, and they were nominated for what's the British award?
There's the Brit Award, the Mercury Award.
Yeah, not the Mercury, but I guess it was um the Brit Award, and won. And so that was fun. And then we went to Europe. It was like a television tour. And then we we did a United States live tour, like a summer tour, of like all the festivals and
Yes,
yeah,
my God, because
outdoor venues.
and you got to sort of meet. Did you get to meet Duran Duran as well at this
Yeah,
stage?
yeah,
That
yeah.
must have
There's
been
some really fun
insanely that
stories.
because that period of the 80s was insanely pop, wasn't it? I mean, massive
Yeah,
sales.
yes, yeah. They were huge.
And the Bangles actually were just hitting sort of hit single after hit single as well, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
sure.
Jeezy, crazy. So
Yeah.
then how do you navigate the 90s? Because then do you meet Dave Stewart from the Eurythmics?
Yeah, so that was my last gig before I started to get really fed up with the music business. And I wasn't really a stylist, so to speak, with him, but I did work with, he was started a solo band, Dave Stewart and the Spiritual Cowboys, and I introduced Nan Vernon to him, and she was like a member of the band, and I did style them some, but I was basically like a kind of secretary at that point. I really needed a job,
Right.
but I got fed up. I got fed up with the music industry, and then I really switched.
Is this
Career.
when you went to college?
Yeah,
And that was it.
I was
So
in my 30s. I look 18 now.
and then when was Eden born?
97.
Right. So had you done college all the way and then had the
Yeah.
child?
Yeah, I have become an occupational therapist. And so while I was raising Eden, I was an occupational therapist for like 10 years.
Wow, my God. And so on the music front, is it still there in the background in your life?
Yeah, um because of Kosh, and I managed Kosh. And we still do some things. We just did a record for a guy who is a Latin artist. Yeah, we do various things. We just went to a John and Yoko event last night for their Power to the People album, where they use one of his photos of John Lennon with the fist in the air, because he did the original
Right.
single for Power to the People. And it was Power to the People. And then we had seen the documentary One to One. So he was the creative director at Apple, did Abbey Road and Let It Be, and did Who's Next and the Rolling Stones, and then came to California and did James Taylor, Linda Ronstadt, the Eagles.
My God, actually, he's just done all of it, hasn't he?
Yeah. So, and it's funny to think when I was 25 that I met him. But he was a married man, older, and I was, you know, 25. So we re-met actually during the pandemic.
Oh,
Right. I was doing a podcast for about Linda and interviewed him, and he was single. I was single.
and you said, look, this is it, mate. It's
Yeah.
meant to be. Jesus,
Yeah.
crazy. He's done so many albums, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has.
A billion. I know, I'm a bit fixated on that.
So he did the War is Over campaign, and um, he did a bunch of, he did, some um, instant karma single, did some really cool things.
Well, absolutely. Did all the all the all those T-Rex records, which
Yeah, the
were yes,
T-Rex.
I know,
He did a
but
couple of them.
I know, and 10,000 Maniacs in My Tribe, which is one of my favourites, actually. So, God damn. So look, so then when did you get because this book's quite mesmerising. Well, how did this book sort of come? Because it's beautifully put together, and Jesus, you have an amazing
He
story,
did
don't you?
the book cover and a lot of the spreads in it, and the single cover. There's a 45 included with the book package,
So
and
when did the
that's
book?
it.
When did you decide to do the book? When did this start to?
It's been
When did
a
this kind
long
of?
it's been a long process. I started writing these stories to do live, and that Marina was doing and still is doing the show. She's rebooted it. Was called Our Lips Unsealed, and it was a storytelling show. And so I started writing like Elvis to Elvis, that chapter, and the one of the Linda Ronstadt chapters. I started writing these, and so it kind of sprung from that.
Right. It came out. And what was what was it like? Did it feel quite exciting, quite scary? Did you have to unearth things that you thought that you had to sort of process? You know, because there's
Yeah, for sure.
because
It
you're
had
looking at
different phases, but yeah, there was times when I went, wow, it was like at one point it was very cathartic in a way and a little crazy, for some of it. Um, my earlier writing, I sort of had to revisit it because it felt a little kitsch, like especially the live versions. And I was like, I think I need to like make it a little bit more sophisticated. Although I do try to write it at the age that I was at. I try to keep it in the moment, as much as possible. And yeah, so yeah, and then I met my publisher, Todd Novak from Hozak. I was introduced to him from this other author, Jem B. Larson, who wrote a book called Hit Girls that we were in. And she introduced me to him like 3 years ago. So it's been a very long process.
Yes, I think I've got that book actually. Yes, but I don't know, 3 years isn't too bad. I've had one or two people went, it's like there's a
It
lot.
felt like a long time. And then it got really intense, like especially, when you're towards the end, it gets really intense. And then you realize, oh, there's this typo and that
Did you
typo.
did you um did you feel it was because I spoke to quite a lot of I suppose women who've been writing books about that their music moment because often the history of music's told by the men and initially it's kind of the mainstream and then it gets to be the slow so-called underground but it's still very male and then slowly I say more women are sort of coming up with their books and memoirs and journey. Did you sort of feel like there was an element that it was quite important to put another voice in the mix, so to speak, which wasn't the usual white
Wasn't
man?
sure. I wasn't sure. I think this has been like a really comfortable fit. It's this mm, more punk label. It just felt I wasn't really going for a major uh, publisher, so I didn't have to like get an agent and do all that, which was nice. It felt I just loved the way it came together. And I love how it's sort of growing legs and things like that. It's nice. It feels more like DIY, DIY,
Yes.
sorry, DIY, do it yourself. Feels in that really like sort of more punk vein. Doesn't feel, it's nice. And I'm
It,
donating all my profits to Eden's um, um, Eden has a space called Junior High Los Angeles. It's a nonprofit. It is LGBTQ plus, and it's a community space. It's an art space. I'm gonna do a book launch there in
Oh,
about a
that's
week.
fantastic.
So
That
I'm
is
donating all my profits to junior high.
brilliant. Well, it's always nice to do it for another reason, isn't it, really? And getting the
Yeah.
photographs together, did you sort of call round and ask people? Did you put out sort of messages on social media saying, look, has anybody got any pictures? Because I'm just asking
No,
because
no,
there were,
I didn't have to do that because um, I had a lot of the photos already from Jenny Lens from a long time ago. Um, and I knew who took the photos. I knew who took the photos. So
right.
um, no, that was not an issue.
Oh, that's
It
very
was
good.
just trying to, we had to make, obviously pay people and all that. But no, I it was pretty easy. I mean, there was a couple people I had to ask, um, like the Randy Rhodes, Kevin DuBrow, things like that. I
Yes, but
but I
apart
did
from
know those. I did know those people, but yeah, I have to kind of use my contacts and things like that.
well, absolutely. And how have people? Because again, you sort of obviously shone the light on a quite an interesting scene. Have many people seen it, or is the book just about to come out?
No, it's been out and shipping out like in the last couple of weeks, and I've gotten like really great feedback. It's really, really fantastic.
Oh, it must be just so exciting to
It
actually
is exciting.
get all the bits and pieces and
And then giving one to my daughter, and saying, I didn't know it was gonna look like this. It's so cool, very
amazing.
gratifying.
And at the moment, it's available obviously in the USA. Is it going to
But
be
it is
available?
going worldwide. It is going worldwide. It is going to have worldwide distribution very soon.
Well, I hope so because it would,
Definitely.
because
Good. I mean, I a friend of mine ordered it who lives in London, but it's gonna be, you won't have to pay like expensive shipping because it will be like with
oh, hurrah,
European
that's always nice.
distribution.
So on
I think
sort
it
of
should be with them in the next couple of weeks.
oh, for the Christmas market, that's always good. So then, just as a curiosity, so what parts of the book did you find particularly enjoyable? Was there any particular moments that you thought, oh, that was just a gorgeous kind of period and brought lots of happiness to your cheeks?
Um, that's an interesting question. Happiness. Each chapter is so different. I think I think the Linda chapters were really fun. There's two Linda Ronstadt chapters. I think those are kind of like really um, good times for me. Um, some of the more difficult things were, when you get into like relationship stuff or even, um, talking about Glenn Tilbrook or any of these things that were heartbreaking at the time. Those
Yes.
those were more challenging. And then also, of course, in terms of challenging would be like when my mother got sick and when I was, you know, grieving and didn't know how to grieve. And things were, confusing in my family and became the black sheep. These were more painful. But
Yeah.
I think things got better and better as time marches on.
Could you see, having done the book, there could have been those kind of crossroads that could have been a complete disaster? Do you think, like, thank God, I turned that way and not the other way? Because
Yeah, or I'm glad certain things, like, as much as I was so, I guess, infatuated with Glenn Tilbrook, I, in retrospect, I am relieved that it didn't work out. I think he probably makes a better friend, and yeah, there's things that you just at the time you can't see it, but in retrospect, everything is the way it's supposed to be.
Yes, this is true. And I just noticed finding music about the band is quite tricky. You've got a Bandcamp page, haven't you, with some bits and pieces on?
Some of that I'm not on that. This after I left the band.
Right. Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
I'm not on, I don't think I'm on that stuff. But songs that I maybe co-wrote, but
Mm,
um um yeah.
yeah, it was just tricky to sort of
We were
locate.
unsigned. We were an unsigned band, as there were many unsigned bands. So I wish we would have been on Stiff. I wish we could have developed more and were on Stiff, but that wasn't meant to be
It
either
wasn't, no, that was,
in the
no, that was,
cards. But we were like a sort of springboard for other people.
yes.
We inspired other people to start bands, pick up their instruments,
Well, I
or
guess
just
there weren't many bands, there wasn't nothing before you particularly, was there, on that front? I suppose there was a band
well,
called,
yeah,
I was going to say
there,
there was a band called, which is a bit unfortunate, called Fanny, wasn't there? In
there's
America?
Fanny. There was a few female bands,
Yes.
but um, there was that Beatles,
Oh,
the
yes.
Liver Birds or Liver Birds,
That's the one. Yes. There was a
and
book a few years.
there was a few, and there was Susie Quatro. I mean, there was female fronted bands, and then there were there was some.
They were around. But
No,
there was a lot of singer-songwriters, weren't there, from that decade, like Joni Mitchell
yeah,
and Carole King. But
yeah,
that sort of out there
yeah,
punk was probably, you were probably a bit more the pioneers of that period,
for
really.
sure.
So
Yeah,
that was that.
definitely.
Yes. And then did you appear on some Dr. Martin advert as well?
Yeah,
Or
it was a documentary. It was
did
a
you say
documentary
Marina
on
had
Ellen.
a did you say Marina had a podcast as well?
No, we had a podcast together with some other women called Metal Priestesses Podcast. That was a pandemic project.
Right. Well,
And there's some good episodes, though. It's on YouTube. And um, but Marina has a storytelling show called Our Lips Unsealed.
right. I'll have to check that
And
out.
she wrote a memoir and has an agent in London, and hopefully she'll get a deal soon. She's quite a good writer,
Yes.
great writer.
God, I couldn't. How do you pronounce her surname?
Mol Friedel. She was in a band um, called Viva Beat after Backstage Pass.
Right.
They were a good band.
Groovy. That is very groovy. Yes. Sorry, that sounds like me being in Austin, in Austin, Pal. But look, thank you ever so much for this. This is amazing. And again, thank your publisher as well. But it's just such I would say a page turner, apart from I'm looking at a PDF, aren't I? But but
I'll let you know when the distribution.
yes, because I'll definitely
I
have
think
to
it is in the next couple of weeks, if I'm not wrong.
It is great because sometimes you think, oh, I really want that book in America, and you think, you think, oh,
Expensive.
that's cool.
Yeah.
The book isn't, but then, well, the book's quite a good price, and then you think, oh, the P&P, the package and postage.
Yeah. So that will be a non-issue very soon.
Fantastic. Well, look, and if you want, I can always send you a link to the show, and then you can always put it on
Of
your.
course.
That would be marvelous. But thank you ever so much for this. I'm going to go to bed now. But look, I hope it goes well with it, because I've noticed on your Facebook page there's quite a few events coming up, aren't there? So it'll be very.
Yes. So I'm having my book launch at junior high on October 26th. This Sunday, I'm at Stories, Books, and Cafe, and that's Outlaw Women. It's called Outlaw
Yes.
Women. And that'll be with Annette Zillinkis from Bangles, Blood on the Saddle, I think it was a band of hers, and also Pleasant Gaiman, who wrote my foreword
I
and has a
know.
book called Rock and Roll Witch.
Yes, she loves her cats, doesn't she?
Oh yeah,
That's great.
she's a burlesque dancer. This is her spooky season. She's I used to be also a tarot reader. She's a tarot reader. Yeah. And we're going to the Punk Rock Museum in Las Vegas, me and Pleasant, on November 14th through the 16th.
Nice.
We're doing punk rock museum tours, and then we'll have our books there.
Brilliant. Oh, well, I went there last year and it's an amazing
Oh,
space. So, yes, have you visited there yet? Or
not
is it...
yet. This will
God,
be the first.
it's got a lot of stuff. It's got a lot of gear. It's beautifully done. So I hope that goes really well. And they have some
Thank
great,
you.
I mean, it's great that they get the guest speakers in to do these little bits and pieces.
Yeah, that's what we'll be doing.
It's going to be very exciting. But look, best of luck for the book launch
Thank you.
and best of luck for the winter. Take care. Thanks again for
Happy
your time.
holidays.
Take
Okay.
care. Bye-bye.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.
And that was me in conversation with Genny Schorr, talking about her life in music and also the new book that has just come out, which has been amazing. Do check out a copy, or buy a copy at least. It is a page turner, as we like to say. Anyway, this has been the C86 Show, David Eastaugh. So if you want to contact me, you can on those social media platform sites. You'll be able to locate me somewhere. And all these interviews have been archived on Spotify, iTunes, Podbean. It's true. Have a great week. Stay safe.